Alright, so we talked actually just recently about the new fusion that we have in the game. We talked about Granite, the legendary, and it was quite the discussion basically. Go for it, not go for it. Obviously, for newer accounts, especially in the free-to-play segment, it can be a little bit tricky to go for a proper fusion. So, at least for me, it was a pass, mainly because he doesn't add enough to really justify the resources that I have to put into it. But while we're talking a lot about Granite, we did kind of skip about the epic that you can get in the process, so we're going to take a closer look at her for just a moment and talk a bit about if it's worth it going for her, because I think that's a really nice little consolation prize and might actually be the bigger deal, especially if you have a new account. If you just started, this is something that can really help you to round out your lineup, not only for faction wars, but can help you also with a lot of other areas. So let's take a quick look at Hilda. Okay, so when we're looking at the fusion, we talked about Granite already a lot, but of course we also have Hilda in there. And first of all, we have another Dwarf that is an attack champion. Now, if you checked out the video that I recently uploaded where I pulled my void shards, I got Ragnar now, so that is one of the Dwarves that has attack as his main attribute. And this would then be a second one, but we have a force affinity here too. And generally speaking, it can sometimes be a little bit tricky to get decent dwarves for your faction wars, at least early on in your account. There's not that many epics overall. The dwarf faction is actually quite well equipped, but a lot of them are legendary champions, for example, or you got your rares. But if you're talking about epics that are a lot easier to get and can carry you harder in the faction wars and other areas, then that becomes a little bit more tricky. So we're taking a quick look at her. We have, first of all, an aura. We have an ally attack aura in battles. It's not really the best one. Most of the time you're not going to rely on an attack aura. There's a couple of instances maybe in certain stages with some champions where if you run life leech, for example, let's say you run some counter attack and you just need the extra sustain, that can be sometimes helpful for a boss. That's a bit different, but generally speaking you're obviously looking at a speed aura that you're normally preferring if you have that available. When I talk about the passive though, we're actually having a little bit of a boost to her damage, or not only to her damage, to the damage of the entire lineup that you're running, if she applied a heal reduction or a stun previously. And that can be quite nice for wave clear in particular. When we're taking a closer look at her A1, first of all we need 3 books here. It's all based on attack damage, but we have again attacking enemy 3 times, which immediately makes her of course interesting as well for the Fire Knight. So if you're currently struggling breaking through the shield on the Fire Knight and you need something that can hit a little bit harder, she might be a good alternative. I mean, she is definitely a damage dealer, all attack based, has decent multipliers as well, and that will help you to just break through the shield in the first place. And then you also have, with critical hits, a chance to steal random buffs. That might not be the best thing for the Fire Knight itself, but they can help you with a lot of other waves. It can help you in the Doom Tower, can help you in the Cursed City. So if you are still in need of an attack champion that can help you through waves, she can actually contribute quite a lot there as well. And I, for example, ran into multiple issues, especially at the beginning of the count, and even these days, because most of the champions that are upgraded early were magic champions. I actually touched upon that subject already, I think, in the second or third video on the channel, where we had super strong champions, which helped us a lot early on. But the problem was that they are all magic champions that made things a lot harder when you're trying to break through a certain dungeon stage, for example. And having now also a few force champions could actually help a lot. In my case, Alice, for example, isn't even part of my lineup anymore in some of the areas where I want to do damage, because she just slows me down a little bit. I think I also removed her now from my clan boss lineup. Not saying that she's the best clan boss champion in the first place, but she was one of my main damage dealers for a long time, and she's now starting to fall back into a bit of a different role. So suffice it to say, if you can broaden your lineup with additional affinity champions, like in this case another force champion, that's of course pretty fantastic as well. We get on our A2, another one where we attack an enemy 2 times. So another one that helps us to break through the shield of the Fire Knight. Damage inflicted is even increased depending on the debuffs. That can help against bosses a lot, by the way, because in most cases you will load up these bosses with debuffs anyways. Doesn't really matter if you only talk about weaken, about decreased defense, decreased speed. In a lot of cases you might have a poison champion on your lineup too that can help you, so that boosts the damage on her A2 even further. And then you have the heal reduction that we already talked about, which is going to proc her passive. So another thing that can really help you. Not really too book hungry either. We currently need 4 books for that. We have a double cooldown reduction, which puts the cooldown on 3 turns. So it's a fairly good one as well. And then when we're taking a closer look at her A3, we have again 5 books in this case. Once again, 2 more cooldown reductions, putting it on a 4-turn cooldown if she's fully booked. And in this case, even attacking all the champions on the other side. And you have also an increased attack buff for the entire team that comes with it. So that's actually pretty good. So she can really help you buff your own team. She has a few debuffs against the opponent. She has a stun on this one as well. Now, even fully booked, that's only a 60% chance stun, but that's not too bad either. You will get that stun in, you get that extra damage through her passive then, and of course, she as a damage dealer can also really pack a punch. So if you're thinking about like how much you need to invest in order to get her compared to Granite himself, it becomes actually very quickly clear that she could be a fantastic alternative there for you. Now, I personally am definitely going to build her. I need her to boost my faction team. I only have 2 dwarfs so far that fit that role, Ragnar and Melgar, so those are the only 2, and I think she could be the strongest one of the pair by far. And as silly as it may sound, I actually don't have a champion that I currently regularly use that has an increased attack buff for me. So she's already filling that role for me, even without her being able to really hit hard. And that's huge for me too, because if I, let's say, go up against the boss, if I go up against the Fire Knight or any other boss, and all of a sudden I have them loaded up with debuffs and can really pack a punch with her, that is going to help me a ton. Because currently I have as my main damage dealers essentially Michelangelo, who's a spirit champion. I have Alice, who's a magic champion. And I don't really have anyone that fits that role as a force champion. I have Lemonisi, but I talked about her a lot. In my eyes, she's not really the hardest hitter, and she hasn't justifying a position to fully book her. I am very low on legendary books in the first place, and you will be too if you just start an account, particularly if it's a free-to-play account. So booking Lemonisi in order to boost their damage is always going to be a bit tricky, but with Hilda here we have another force champion that can fill that slot. So if you don't have a really strong force champion yet that can dish out damage, you might really want to consider her, because she's fairly easy to get in the bigger scheme of things. You just have to go hard on a couple of these events in order to get the materials required. And the books are not that bad. I mean, in total, what do we have? We have 5, 4, and 3, so that puts us to 12 books in total, which isn't really too shabby. And if you are a bit lucky and not everything gets dropped into the A1 immediately, then you're also going to have those cooldown reductions here fairly quickly. So my recommendation for you, if you have a newer account, would really build her. Make sure that you equip her properly, focus again on that crit damage as much as you can, and also try and pair her with a couple of champions that can, for example, load up an opponent with extra debuffs, because it's really going to help you with her A2. And then if you are getting her to a boss, if you're getting her to a Fire Knight, that can really help a ton. So for me, she's definitely a must-have at this point. She's going to help me a lot in multiple areas, for sure. Cursed City would be, of course, another one where she is going to help at least me. And I would assume that for most people that started their accounts recently, that's the case as well. So, Granite, if you can go for him, if you have the resources, definitely consider it. For me personally, he doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I know 100% that when it comes to Hilda, I'm gonna go for her. So she is going to help a ton, and I think for most people out there, they should at least try and grab her if they're not aiming for Granite himself. So don't slack too hard on the events that are currently on the table. Make sure that you get a couple of the Glade Wolves here, and then fuse Hilda, and you should probably have a lot of fun with her. Once that I have my own and build her a little bit, I will probably make a follow-up video on this just to show you guys a bit on what she can actually do and how much of an impact she has there. But this is just a bit of an overview as the events are still ongoing. So if you haven't really planned on picking her up yet, you probably should do so. Now with that said, that's it for the day. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope that if you have any comments, again, feel free to drop them into the comment section. And I hope that you have a fantastic week. Talk to you guys soon and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.